So I would encourage you to seek out people who are living a life that you aspire to, people that have character that you value, people who run companies that you respect.
All right, guys, we are back for another episode. This is How I Talk. Of course, you guys know me. My name is Chris. You're probably wondering where my other co-host is, Tim, but today he is not going to be here. He's not going to be available, but guess what? You guys got me, and guess what? You got another person here I've been knowing for quite some time. I'm especially excited to have them on this podcast because they're going to be giving us a wealth of knowledge. She's already given me a lot of knowledge and a lot of information. So I just wanted to share the input and the amount of information she's poured into me to you guys. So to the right of me or to the left, depending on how you see this video, I have Kelly Kravitz. Welcome to the podcast, Kelly.
Hi, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Nice to meet you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on. Of course, let's do just a little bit of housekeeping for you guys that are watching this podcast right now. Of course, this episode is something, if you like it, obviously put a comment, like, subscribe, share with other people, let them know about what we have to offer. This is going to be a different spin of what we usually talk about, but that's the great thing about this podcast because we talk about a lot of different things. And of course, you're going to learn different realms of life, and that's what we want to pour into you guys. So before we get into this interview, I think everybody, including me, I already know a little bit, but if you can give everybody, Kelly, an inside look into who you are. Who is Kelly Kravitz?
Wow, what a great question, and what a great way to start the interview. Gosh, I am a learner. I'm somebody who values growth. I value feedback. I'm always looking to get better and to grow. I believe in serving and really laying your life down for others. I've had the honor to work at the Texas Education Agency for nearly the last decade, building out programs for students, highly mobile and at-risk students in the state of Texas. But I am so much more than my job. I am faithful and active and love getting out, love adventure. I have the honor of living in Austin, Texas, so there's never a dull moment in the city. Now that we're coming out of COVID, definitely things are awakening up in the city, and so that's fun. Those are a few things about me. I'm excited to dive in further in this interview.
Definitely. Well, thank you for sharing that information. Guys, she has a lot of information she's going to pour into us today. So let's go ahead and get into it. Today, what are we really talking about, guys? I just want to give you a quick scope of the things that we're going to be talking about, and then we're going to dive into the details of it. Today, guys, we want to talk about the priorities that people have, right? Us as people, right? We have a lot of things going on in our life. We have priorities that we have to set up for ourselves. We have a mindset that we want to obviously transform and move into the next phase of our life and get where we want to be. But the question becomes, how do you get, one, a mindset? Two, how can you transform your life if you feel like you're at a standstill? And then three is, how can you set up priorities, right? Everybody has a different strategy or a different approach. Some people don't know where to start. Some people have something that's worked for them in the past and they apply it now. So these are questions, guys, we want to define. And when you understand the power of mindset and transformation, it will change your life. So Kelly, my question to you is, how does one define the priorities?
Gosh, Chris, that is such a great question. And I think it's really important when it comes to priorities that you're thinking about all of the different spheres and buckets of your life. And even for me, this has been deep dive work that I've been doing in COVID as I realized that so much of my life has been about my job, and I am so much more than my job. And so when you're thinking about priorities, Oftentimes people think about like their career or their family, but really it's so much more. So when you're thinking about your priorities, I want you to think about the physical environment, like where you spend your time, where you're located, the environment that you're in. I want you to think about your career and your job and what you're doing. You want to think about your finances and your financial health. You want to think about your personal health and well-being. You want to think about your family. You want to think about your friends. You want to think about personal growth and development. Spiritual. Who are you spiritually, and how are you growing? Significant others, romance, love and relationships, as well as fun and recreation, right? So these are all of the different areas that really encompass who we are. And when you think about priorities, you want to think about setting priorities in each one of these areas of your life. I'm actually in a health and wellness coaching program right now with the Functional Medicine Academy. And we have this exercise called the Wheel of Life, where we actually put all of these domains on a wheel from 0 to 10 and ask people to assess themselves to really get a picture of where you're at in relationship to your priorities. And I think in doing an exercise like that and taking that time to assess like who you are and what you value, you can see some of your priorities. You can also see maybe some areas where, man, this needs more attention in my life because I'm maybe out of balance. Your wheel is out of balance. So anyway, Chris, great question. I know we're going to dive in, but those are definitely some things that I would be thinking about in relationship to your priorities.
I like that, what you said, the wheel of life. I think that's awesome, that approach and that ideology you guys come up with in your class. You named, going back to what you stated earlier, though, you named a couple of different things, right? Mm-hmm. Your career, your health, your financial, mm-hmm. your personal life, right? Mm-hmm. Your spiritual life, right? Mm-hmm. All these encompass what somebody would have to do as far as priorities, placing them in order. Mm-hmm. But how do you put that in order? I mean, yeah, that's subjective, but how would somebody put, okay, this is number 1 in my life, this is number 2, 3, so on and so forth? Yeah,
that's such a great question. So I think you really, you need to think about the season that you're in, right? Different seasons require different effort, require a different environment. And so it's really being mindful of your season and knowing where you're at and ensuring that the season that you're in reflects with the priorities that you have. Another thing that I think is incredibly important is to think about your vision overall. Like, what am I about and what do I desire? And it's like, if money was not an option, if there was no limits, like taking some time to dream in each of these areas and think about what do you want, right? Where are you going? What does that look like? And then you step back and it's like, on this wheel of life and on these different priorities, it's like, what do I want to work on right now? What's a must do now? What's I'll get to it next? And what's we can get to it later? And that, again, it depends on the season that you're in. And then making sure that where your time goes, your effort, your energy is reflective of those priorities for that season.
That is great. That is awesome. Audience, if you're listening, I hope you're taking notes because I am as well. So this is really good information, Kelly. You said priorities, right? This is what we're talking about, priorities. You said, obviously, it is a reflection of you being able to define what it is that you want to do. It's the season that you're in. But I would have to say that priorities is somewhat a reflection of your vision. Would you say so yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Like you have to have the vision, because if you don't know where you're going, then it's going to be really hard to prioritize. And that's when like other people's priorities, demands pulling at your attention, whether it be your job or your family or, whatever it may be, like things start to compete for our time. And if we're not clear on our vision, then it's very easy to just be drug around and not be clear on our priorities. And so that's really an essential step to even knowing like what should I be prioritizing? What should I be working on? It's like, what is my vision and what am I working towards? So absolutely.
Definitely. I like that. So of course, right, we're talking about priorities, but managing them, right? So we've listed out the priorities, we talked about them. How do you manage, right? Because before we even get into COVID, that's a whole different other discussion about that. Yeah. Priorities can be something that is somewhat very much so overwhelming, especially when you include people that have children, that are married. Sometimes your other people's priorities, you're more focused on them than yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with it, right? Your children, you want to take care of your children, your husband or your wife, you want to, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, you want to take care of them naturally. Sometimes you take on their priorities, right? But what about yourself? Because self-care is so huge. How do you manage the priorities for yourself? How do you handle that?
Yeah. Such a good question. So one thing I want to say that I think managing priorities is messy, and I think it's hard. And I think for me, even in COVID, it's like I had a chance, as we all did, to like have a hard reset and really look at our priorities, like look at our life, look at our time, look at our environment, and reassess and reevaluate.
Mhm.
And I think when it comes to like how you set priorities, and was that your question, Chris? Like,
yeah, how do you set, how do you manage?
Yeah. So I think really, like we talked about vision, which, this requires some time. It requires some self-reflection. It requires some inner work that is essential and critical, right? Like it's well worth the time that it takes to evaluate in these different areas to get your vision, right? And then you're gonna, like, from that vision and from getting some of those ideas out, it can even just be like 3 minutes on each area you brainstorm and just get ideas out. You could have a friend over and like, hey, we're going to do this activity together, right? And support each other in like just fleshing out ideas. You do theirs, you do yours, they do theirs. And then you get those priorities, and then you want to narrow it down, right? And then you want to essentially set some goals in your key areas. Like you can't focus on it all at once. So think about maybe what are the top 2 or what are my top 3 of all of these different things that I'm going to say, this matters. And in this next season, I'm going to be intentional about fill in the blank. And so it's then with that you get clear on your goal. And then what you're going to do is really like map backwards, like see where you want to be in this one area, and then think about like your milestones and what needs to be in place for you to get there. And as I started out saying, this is messy. Like for me, it's really just been in the last year that I've started to do a deep dive on this work for myself. And it's coming back to your goals. It's coming back to it, even when you're like way off track, and like revisiting and seeing how your like week and your month and your quarter aligns to those goals that you've set. And so I think that's like key for how you manage it. Like January is notorious for everyone's like, woo, I have all these goals, right? Like I have all these things, but we lack a structure. We lack a plan. We lack a plan of attack to actually see those things through. And so I think thinking about where you want to be and then setting some like milestones on your way to that goal is a way for then you to kind of track to see how am I doing in this area, and taking time to look at that vision, to look at these goals, look at your priorities frequently so you keep it in front of you. Like I would recommend that you like set it up in, somewhere that you can see it. Maybe you have a practice like weekly or monthly, like whatever works for you, where you're looking at this and revisiting it so that you can start to see like when your life is shifting you off of the things that you've identified or what you value and what you prioritize.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So I have to ask you, your opinion, why do you think that people are not successful about completing their priorities or their goals?
I think there's a lot of things. One, I think we get in our own way, right? Our heads, our past, the inner critic, right? And we get in our own way. We also maybe have things that have been spoken to us or over us that have taken root in our mind or in our heart about who we are or what our limitations are. And we live out of that. And so that's one thing. Mindset, like the critic, the negative voices, the people who you share your dreams with, and they say like, you're crazy, haters, whatever you want to call it. Also, like our own mental health, like depression, like things can literally get in the way of us taking the action that we need to take. Like toxic relationships, right? There could be things in our environment, things within our mind and mindset that are really affecting us. And so taking note of those things, and again, not at a place of condemnation or criticism, but out of a place of like, okay, this is something maybe that I need to work on, or this is something that's getting in the way. And then another thing I think in our society is that we're so quick. Like this is an insta culture, right? Like likes, clicks, hearts. Like we're wanting the instant gratification. We're wanting the instant reward. And like what we're talking about is not like microwave activities. These are not just insta things that happen. Like these are things that take time and cultivation and showing up when you don't feel like it. The compounding effect, right? Like it works with our money, but it works in our lives. It works with our skills. It works with our goals. It works with our vision. And so it's like, how are you showing up for yourself? And like, how are you creating time for these things that matter? And so I think like not having a plan of attack, we don't do a good job of thinking about, man, what barriers might get in my way? Like in my past, when I've set out to do something, what has come up for me that's been a roadblock, right? Like, so when you're engaging in, I'm going to like reprioritize, how do you mitigate that early on? Like, how do you anticipate what some of your challenges and barriers might be? And then create a plan for maybe how you're going to overcome or work through those things. So I realize I just said a lot, but those are just some different ideas that I think get in the way, and they get in the way for me too, right? Like I come at this like humbly. I'm just a work in progress as well as I work to prioritize and get things out of my life that don't serve me.
I'm loving this because this is great stuff. I've been writing this down. Audience, again, if you guys are just tuning in, write this stuff down. This is good. This is really, really good. I love what you're sharing, Kelly. I think the power of progression, just to expand on what you're saying, I think is very interesting. You said something that I think a lot of young people that have been, basically born into social media and the fast culture, that lifestyle, everything is quick. Boom, boom, boom. We get here, we get there. Results come really quick. They come out very quick. That's just kind of what they've been born and bred into. And I think a lot of people lose track of the power of progression. Progression is huge. Enjoying the progression, enjoying what that means instead of just looking towards the end goal. If you want to be good at something or whatever your priority is in life personally, I think a lot of people just concentrate on the end goal instead of looking at, I made several steps this month. I should be happy about what I did right there. Doesn't mean I'm complacent and doesn't mean I'm satisfied, but it does mean that I have made powerful steps to move forward in my life. And I think a lot of people don't look at the small steps. They despise small steps because they turn into large gains. And I think, like you stated, structure. People have to have structure. And if you have that, if you understand progression is a beautiful thing, the results will come within.
Yeah. And you need to draw on those strengths, like to get where you're going. So if you've set out to do something and that month, like let's say you said executed at 75%, and in your past you were executing at 30%, right? That is a huge gain. And I don't even care what it is. If it's waking up 15 minutes extra early to do personal development before your day, or to look at your vision, right? And speak it over your life before you start your day, whatever it is. Maybe it's savings. Maybe it's sticking to your budget in your eating out category, right? Whatever it is, it's you honor that. You honored that you did that thing. And you notice that in yourself, because, if you're looking at habits and you're looking about changing behavior, changes in behavior do not happen. It's not a broad brush all at once. It is those little things over time. And so it's important. I'm so glad that you said that, to take time out to celebrate your wins, to honor them. And then you pull strength from those as you move forward with the goals that you're working on and working towards.
Definitely. I have to ask, where do you get your strength from to be able to push forward on your personal priorities?
Gosh, for me, my faith is my foundation. So I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus. I believe Jesus died for my sins. And like has a purpose and a plan and a call for my life. And so like, regardless of like what is coming at me, that like sustains me in all things. And I think also helps me to see the bigger picture. And yeah, that's definitely my foundation.
Definitely. All right. And of course, we've talked about progression. Let's kind of move forward. We've touched on it, and it was vision. And before I get into the question, I think vision is so important. Why is vision so important? Well, you guys have been listening to the podcast. One reason I talk about vision a lot, I especially talk to men specifically, because sometimes I just focus on guys. Obviously, I'm a guy, right? So I speak on them, and people in general must have vision. But for guys, I talk about this all the time about man being on purpose, man having vision. The lack of vision is apparent in a lot of people, and you can see that. And when you lack vision, you really don't, you almost kind of go side to side. You don't move forward.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean when you do have vision, it doesn't mean you won't go side to side in places of uncertainty, but you never move forward at all when you don't have vision. There's no light at the end of the tunnel when you lack vision. Everything is just kind of like dark, in my opinion. But my question to you would be is why is it important for someone to have vision? What is your view on that?
I mean, I think vision really provides you, like, it's your true north, like it's what you're working on. It's what you're working, what you desire, or what you maybe desire to happen in and through your life. I think, you talked about from the man perspective, and that's what you speak to. And I think something a lot with women is that we're very like self-sacrificing, and that sometimes can be to the detriment, where you are literally like taking care of everyone and everything without taking care of yourself. And I even think for me, like my career reflects that for myself. Like I'm passionate about something, so I'm all in, and not having clarity in like other areas and like making space and time for those things is like critical, because you don't want to get to a place where you're like, your wheel is lopsided, right? Like you have vision for one poured of your life. And so you've poured all of your energy into that one area, but there's like the wheel of life that we started this discussion with, like all of the components that make you who you are. And I think it's really important to like own what is your vision and to be clear about it, so that your time, your investments, in every way, like relationally, with your resources, with your time, reflect those things that are your vision. So it's incredibly important. It provides focus, it provides purpose, it gives you meaning. Like there is so much tied to vision, and it's really, really important work that every person does for themselves. Like nobody can define that for you. You have to do that work for yourself.
Interesting you say that, because vision to me is very imperative for somebody to be successful. And there's a lot of components for somebody to be successful, right? One is obviously they have their priorities, but that seems like it comes from the same tree of just having vision, right? But I need to know, as a successful person, what is that DNA for a successful person? What are they made of? What do you think that a person is made of when they become successful, or when they're in the transition of being successful?
Yeah, the DNA of success. One, it's important that you're committed to learning. Like if you're not learning, you're dying, right? Like you've got to be committed to growing and to learning and expanding your mind, your mindset. I think the DNA of success is being service oriented, being others oriented. Like it's not about you, but how do you add value to people's lives around you? How do you serve others? And when that is your motive, I think like what will happen in and through you will blow your mind. Your company will blow up, the program that you're running. Like if it's truly about serving and adding value to people's lives, like you can't go wrong with that. I think it's important that you have gratitude. People who are successful are grateful people. and taking time to develop a gratitude practice in your life, to see the things that are working, to see the things that are good. I think it's important that you get up early. People who are successful and win in life, they maximize their morning. And instead of just hitting the ground running, answering emails, answering everyone else's priorities, you take time for yourself. And this is something I've had a major change in the last 2 years, where I literally would just work before work, work at work, and then work after work. And taking that time for you, for your vision, for your goals, for your priorities, not your workplace, not, whoever else may be competing for that space. It's important that you get up and you carve out that space for yourself and you protect it, right? It has to be protected. I mentioned a growth mindset. That's essential. Like, you've got to be committed to learning. You've got to be committed to growth. A risk taker. Like, you can't play small. Like, you've got to be challenged. You have to lean into fear. You have to just do it scared. I think successful people, something I'm loving about Instagram is just, you get to control who you follow, right? And their input into your life. But you have a chance to see people's lives up close that you respect. You see the outcome of their life. And then you get a bird's eye view into following them and learning more about who they are in the day to day. That I think is incredibly helpful. And something that I've seen is the risk taking in people. And so I think it's critical. I have a list. Habits and discipline is really important. Successful people, you don't just get there willy-nilly. You have to work hard, but work smart and be disciplined, self-disciplined. Structure is good. Saying no to yourself is good. Making your bed in the morning is good. When your alarm goes off, not hitting the snooze button, which I did today, but right, being on your commitments that you make to yourself, right? Health, that's another thing. Your health, it matters. If your vessel is not trained, if your vessel is out of shape, if your vessel is packing on considerable extra amount of weight, it's okay, but you've got to work on that, because you're calling, this is the one temple, the one body you got. And in order for your mind to be sharp, in order for you to feel good, in order for you to have the capacity to carry out the call, you need your body to be working at optimum. And I see people who are successful, they prioritize their physical health because it's essential to everything that you do. Being someone who reads, as a kid, I did not like to read. I hated books, and I prided myself on that. I was all about sports and all about athletics. And I was I can't stand reading. And now I just see how foolish and how stupid that perspective was. And I wish somebody would have challenged me when I was 19. Really, Kelly, really? That's not smart. So reader, if you're a reader, and if you don't like to read, get Audible, but through books, you have an opportunity to get somebody's life's work in a matter of 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, poured into a book that you could read in a month. And then all of that goes in. So being a reader, I think being humble is really important, being open, being humble, and then I think being super intentional. So those are things that I observe in people that I see that are successful.
It's interesting you say that, because that is 100% true. I can definitely agree to that, especially reading books. I mean, they say not even just, it's not always about money, right? But they say the richest or most successful person reads tons of books. Usually the people that a lot of people look up to, they read tons of books. And again, you don't have to read, you can listen to audio.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different other platforms you can find information. There's a multitude of places to find that information. And it's interesting, all the things that you're saying of a successful person, because I think you really, to sum it up, it really looks like you're showing people that in order to be successful, you have to have a long-term mindset. Yeah. You cannot have a short-term mindset, because your short-term is you're thinking about tomorrow. While you should think about tomorrow, yes, everybody should, you only think day to day. You don't think 3 months. You don't think 6 months. You don't think 5 years. You don't think 10 years. You don't have a plan, in other words. And again, that goes back to a vision. And one thing needs to be true is when you do have vision or a plan, your plan does not always go as scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
This is part of it. It needs tweaks. It needs to be altered. It needs to be restructured, but you are still going forward. And this is where I talked about people going side to side when they have vision. Sometimes they go side to side because the vision has changed a little bit. Uncertainty. They're not sure which way to go, left or right. But at least you're 10 steps ahead versus the person that never started. They're still on step one, and they're just side to side with nothing to show proof of. So what you're saying is 100% true. So, I mean, you're talking about a mindset for a successful person. Let's talk about that, right? We wanted to talk about the power of mindset and transformation. Mm-hmm. My question is, what mindsets are most important for success, for life, work, leadership, things like that? What are the important tools for that?
Okay, your mind is everything, because it's the filter in which everything you experience goes through. And so work on your mindset is really important, and it's really valuable to invest in it. So I think one, like, are you negative, like positive? It's important that you think positive, and it's important that you get rid of negativity and toxic thinking. It's really critical, like toxic belief patterns, limiting beliefs in any way, like that you identify what those things are and you make a plan to get rid of them and get them out of your life, because they will get in the way of what you are trying to do and achieve. So therapy is important. Having spiritual mentors is important. Doing self-work, getting coaches, like working through those things that trip you up and tending to your mind and your mindset, like you're cultivating a garden of like the best. And so any weeds that crop up, you are going to be like working to remove those things, any toxic ways of thinking, negative perspectives, that then you are doing the work necessary to rid those things. And it's not that you're not going to experience negativity or you're going to just be in this positive, like fake world. People talk about toxic positivity, like, right? It's not that, but you control this thing. And, you know, there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about being transformed by the renewing of your mind. And I think for the longest time, I just thought that was like what not to think about. But it's like really doing the work of mind renewal and like investing in that for yourself. It's critically important. And who you surround yourself with and what you listen to and what you follow will also like have a big impact on how you think and your mindset about things. And so it's really important, and it's really important to do the work so that you can that you can cultivate the garden, so to speak. You can cultivate your dreams and live out the vision that you have because you have done the work in your mind.
I love what you're saying. That's powerful. I like it. Very good stuff. So, you're talking about mindset, and the people are listening. Maybe there may be just a few people, maybe everybody, I don't know, but they may be thinking, Kelly, what you're saying is great. It's phenomenal. I love the power of the mindset. I love the priorities. I love the goals that you're instilling. I love the positivity. But Kelly, I'm going through adversity right now. I'm in a season of adversity. How can my mindset be able to work with adversity right now? What would you recommend? What would you say to people out there going through adversity? We all go through it, but sometimes you just go through a season of adversity, one thing after another. And COVID kind of showed it. That was an example.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So out of your deepest challenges, your heaviest weights, the most tragic things, the most horrific things, the most challenging, out of those places comes the strength, the resolve, the grit to walk out your vision, to walk out your calling. Like, in order to like fulfill and possess that vision that you have in whatever the area, that hard thing, that tension, that stressor, that is actually going to be the thing out of which you have to go through for the thing that you desire to be birthed. And so I think that is really another thing. Again, I'm a Christian, so I reference the Bible, but like the Bible says all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. But like, it's in the all things. So that heartbreak, that horrible thing that's happening at work, that injustice that you're experiencing, like all things, like even that thing will in you develop the resolve, the resiliency, what is needed to essentially like possess that vision. And something else I'm just kind of amazed by is I think anybody who's successful, like they have a story. There is a message in the mess. And so it is pivoting to what is the message that's going to be out of this mess. And also knowing that the season that you're in, like all things, there's all different seasons and all different timeframes for different things. And so knowing it won't last. And even for me right now, like I'm dealing with some things relationally that are hard with some family members. And it's like, I just want to get the lessons that I need to get out of this situation so that I can grow and move forward. And so I would encourage you to look for the gift in the hard and know that none of, like, no tear, no stress, no rage, no, it will not be wasted. And to like stay the course and hold on and know that this too will pass and that you're going to be better for it. Yeah, you will be pressed on all sides, but you will not be taken out, and you will be better for it.
And when did your mindset change?
I would say that over the last couple of years, I've just done a deep dive around some of this work that I'm sharing about, and it's come out of heartbreak and heartache and life being disappointing and life not being what I thought it would be at this age and stage of life. But in the disappointments of life, you have an opportunity. And so for me, like over these last 2 years, I have just started to like surround myself with leaders and people, and it's really been virtually. Like I'm so thankful for different people that I've been able to follow online and like buy their courses and learn from, to be able to start to really cultivate like my vision, my goals, and do the work that's needed to grow. And I mean, I think there's been key things that I shared that have been with me since I was like a kid. Like there's things hardwired into me. It's my DNA. It's who I am. But there's a lot of other things that I've had to really work on and grow through. And it's been in challenges and been in disappointments that I've had, like the moments that have caused me to stand up and grow and have revelation in new ways about some of what I'm sharing today.
Definitely. That growth is everything. So, of course, with a growth mindset or a mindset that has been transformed, the people around you are so important. Why are they so important? And what would you recommend for people out there who need people, who need maybe a tribe to feel that they have that growth mindset around them, or just the right setup? What would you recommend for them?
Yeah, it's so important. I think one thing that's really neat about, you can find a lot of crap on the web and you can find a lot of bad things out there, but you can also find a lot of good things. And so you can find like-minded community on virtually in every area. And so I would encourage you to seek out people who are living a life that you aspire to, people that have character that you value, people who run companies that you respect, people that own land that you're like, wow, and start following them and start like potentially sign up for a course or join a virtual, I'm a part of Beachbody, which it's a health and wellness company online. And so I have like a coach, and through that, I have gotten connected to a lot of different people around health and the health and wellness space that's absolutely transformed my life over the last couple of years as I've prioritized my health. I recently learned about this financial movement called FIRE, Financial Independence, Retire Early. And I went to a retreat and I learned about this whole FI community. And I was like, what is this? I've never heard of this ever. And it's all these people that are like, bunk that. I'm not going to be 65 and retire. Like, I'm retiring early. And I'm just like, okay, I didn't know this was possible, So you find your community, and you can find it in your community too. I think I have a church here in Austin that I go to, and I've got great community and fellowship there and awesome people that are in my life. And so that's been really important, especially in COVID. So it is critical who you seek out. And I would encourage you, if there are people that you're following, and when you see them, you get a gut check, or you have some kind of visceral response in your body to something that you're seeing, you should delete them. Your energy, and again, cultivating the mindset, you do not need to have things that are toxic. We already have enough toxic that we can't in our environment that we can't get rid of, but the things that you can control for, you want to. And so, yeah, I would choose some areas that you want to cultivate. I would think about some people you respect, and I would seek them out. And also, in this last year, I have a mentor here in Austin, and I seek out mentors for different reasons and different things, but she's been a spiritual mentor, which I've not had that. And it's been amazing. And I had to humble myself and ask her, and would you pour into my life? Would you help me do some of this stuff and work through some of these things? And it's been an awesome friendship and relationship of an older woman who's pouring into my life. So I think, stepping out of your comfort zone, asking people to invest in you, and then being mindful of what you cultivate and what you follow and what you listen to. Yeah, gosh, I could go on and on. Pick out some podcasts on different topics you want to work on, listen to those people, there's really no excuse. So I think it's critically important.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And when you transform to that growth mindset, it really changes your life for the better in all aspects, whether it's personal, whether it's business related, like you stated earlier. Whatever it is that you want to grow in, if you can have the right mindset and the right people around you, that can really take you to the next level. I would say from experience, and then other people, you guys maybe listen out there, you've gone through a phase where you've had a fixed mindset. And the fixed mindset is definitely the enemy of innovation. So having a fixed mindset can be a deterrent from your growth, from you being able to elevate. But, I would like to ask you, this is your interview, not mine. So what does life look like for somebody with a fixed mindset? We talked about the greatness of growth mindset, but some people may not understand what is a fixed mindset and what does life look like for that. Maybe they've never experienced that season.
Yeah, that's great. Something else too, I think I want to acknowledge that you can have a growth mindset and then also be fixed in certain areas, right? So generally, you want to espouse to having a growth mindset in every aspect of who you are. And sometimes we have areas where we're all about growth, and then other areas that are on lock and we're nope, not doing that work. And so it's important when you think about cultivating who you are, that you are cultivating a growth mindset in all spheres of who you are. And some things to think about with a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset says no. A fixed mindset says can't. A fixed mindset runs from accountability. A fixed mindset manipulates to make themselves not look bad, to put blame on somebody else. A fixed mindset is that's good for them, but not for me. And a fixed mindset, it literally you will get stuck there. And in any area of your mind and of your life where you choose to say no and to say not today, not doing that, you then put up a wall, and that is then an area of your life that becomes fixed, right? And so dismantling, recognizing areas, I might be growth mindset in 95% of the areas, but here's this 5% area where I still am very fixed. in my thinking. It's okay to acknowledge that and then go to work on that, but just to not stay there. Yeah. A fixed mindset is very apparent, especially when you're leading a team. It's very apparent when you're coaching a team. I think sometimes it's harder to see in friendships sometimes, and sometimes even relationships. Like you have to be in a relationship for a while to see, like, do you have a growth mindset, right? So anyway, those are just some things, Chris, that come to mind with that question. But that's a really good question.
Excellent, excellent. Well, hey, I wanted to wrap up with this last question. And for you guys out there listening, this has been phenomenal. I've been wanting to have Kelly on here for a while, so I'm glad we were able to make this happen, right? So we've been talking about power transformation. We've been talking about goal setting. We've been talking about prioritizing. We've been talking about having vision in all realms of life. This is not fully dedicated to your business life. It is not fully dedicated to personal life, but it can be applied wherever you see fit. So take this again. Hope you're writing notes. I hope you share this with somebody because they could definitely use this. It could be part of their testimony, whatever the case may be. But my question for you is, we talked about vision. I want to go back to that. We talked about visions. We've talked about goals. We talked about the success of a person and what it takes to be successful. What is the DNA of a person? Mm-hmm. But one thing that is very true that I find in successful people are the systems. Mm-hmm. Systems of people. So again, success is not just defined by business or making money. I want that to be clear on the record for everybody listening. Mm-hmm. Success could be things that you're doing and accomplishing in your personal life. It could be your health is success. It could be spiritually, you feel success, all these different realms. But you got to create a system. But I need to know why are systems so important from you?
For me. Okay. Well, something regarding systems is that there's a really good book that's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And he says that you do not rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the level of your systems. And this has been really powerful for me because I'm somebody who's very free-spirited and I'm very like big picture. And sometimes I feel like structure is like chains and like clipping my wings, so to speak. And so when you're talking about systems and structure, even for me, as I, over this last couple of years, have really like taken a deep dive around goals and like vision and thinking about what I want. And like, you absolutely need the systems to automate so that you're not having to spend so much energy on like making like, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. But when it becomes like a part of your system, let's say 10 minutes a day you spend on personal development and you're committed to a book that you read 10 minutes a day, right? That can become a part of your like personal system in the morning for ensuring that you're going to get to your goal of reading 10 books this year on some area or topic that you're interested in. And so having those systems, you get up and you go to the gym at this time and you work out and you're going to do it no matter what. Praying, having that spiritual development time, integrating that in and making it consistent. And so the systems are essential so that you don't have to work so hard to see your vision or your goal through. And something else, let's say a system of looking at your goals once a week. This is something that I have implemented this year. Some weeks I've done a great job. Some weeks I've skipped. But this idea of if this is what I've identified as my vision, as my goals, then what are like the habits? What are the disciplines? And so even like having a habit tracker, right? Like these things that you've identified, we talked about a couple priorities at the very beginning, thinking about what those are. What are disciplines? What are habits potentially you could track that like help you achieve? And like, what are some things that you can do, whether it be a checkpoint, maybe once a month or once a week, where you're actually coming back to like reevaluate and see how you're doing on that thing. That's an example of a system that could help you with accomplishing your goal. And if your mind and your brain, like you are not wired to have like the goal and the plan and the checklist and the tracker, like I get it and I get you because that's not my brain either. But what I've learned is that these are some things that are essential to being able to like live and be and achieve at the capacity and desire that you have that's in alignment with your vision. So I think keeping track of your goals, like habit tracking, thinking about where you spend your time, your resources, your energy, like, and ensuring that there's alignment, and setting up some systems and things that are automated that you don't have to think about. Like when my alarm goes off, I don't have to think about working out in the morning because that's just a part of my system for my day. I'm going to do it. Now, 3 years ago, I had to fight and go to war with myself because it wasn't a part of my discipline. It wasn't a part of my system. And so, meal prep, same thing, right? I mean, there's so many different areas of life. So thinking about it's every Sunday and I take 2 hours and I chop all my vegetables to get ready for the week, or whatever it is. So it's like putting those things in place that you don't have to think about. And I would say something that's really important when you're getting started is that you want to practice making commitments you keep to yourself. So oftentimes if I'm going to, let's say, meet Chris at the gym, which I've never done, but let's say we were going to meet up and go to the gym, like I would definitely make that commitment because it's like with somebody, I'm like, oh, okay. But if it's for myself, then maybe I'm going to choose to opt out and not make that commitment. And so when you're just getting started with some of this stuff, it's not going to feel good. It's going to feel uncomfortable. But you know what? Today, like, have the resolve that I'm going to show up for myself today. And I'm going to give my best to myself. Not just to everybody else, but to myself, because I matter, my life matters, my vision matters, my priorities matter, and I matter. So I think that is definitely critical and definitely a part of systems. So yeah, thanks for that question.
No, that's awesome. I really, really, really like that. And I think systems are a reflection of success. I think systems are a reflection of your life. In business, everything is automated through systems. If you can make, being in business, one of the best books I ever read business-wise would be E-Myth Revisited. I always push people to read that book because it shows you that you have to be able to set systems up. And if they run accordingly, then you'll be able to scale your business because now you've created time to be able to do those different things. Same thing is true in your personal life. If you set up systems, one, you can track. Two, of course, you can see those goals and improvements. And three, depending on what it is that you're doing, you might be able to free up some time to commit to other areas of life because your systems are running so smoothly.
That's right. That's right.
So,
yeah, that's great.
Definitely. Well, Kelly, it's been a pleasure having you on here. Of course, people probably, if they want to reach out to you, is there a way they can reach out to you, email, or, maybe if they want to connect and know more about you or, about the power of a mindset and reach out?
Yeah, gosh, I would be happy to just be there and be a resource. I think probably Instagram would be the best place to get a hold of me. So I'm at K Kravitz 1. I don't know if there's show notes or something that we could drop that in, but that would definitely be the best way to reach out. And I would absolutely love to carry on this conversation with you or share any resources or hear about your vision or your goals and things that you're working on. And if there's any way I could be of support, I'm happy to do so. And Chris, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with your audience today. And thanks you all for the work that you're doing on yourself. And I just know that it matters as we're ending this year of 2021 and preparing for 2022. I just encourage you to prioritize your life, think through your vision, think through your goals, think through your priorities, and make sure that what you do with your time, your resources, your energy reflects those priorities. And thank you.
Awesome. Well, guys, I'm glad you guys tuned in. We will see you guys in the next episode. Until then, be safe.